Hey guys, I just wanted to do my reaction video to Arrows, or I would say it's going to be a review, unfortunately, to Arrow Season 6, Episode 14, Collision Course. Like, it's not going to be a reaction video. There will not be any footage included in this video. It's just going to be a straight up review because, as you may or may not be aware of, the CW apparently is on a witch hunt, for lack of better terms, towards like any YouTube channel, or at least the smaller YouTube channels, as far as I can tell, towards anybody who is doing reaction videos for their shows, or at least their DC CW shows. I don't know about. I mean, granted, I made myself an easy target because I did not know about the 10 minute footage limit, or in which that if I loaded in more than 10 minutes of footage from the episode when doing a reaction, that it would get me blocked. That would get me blocked, or I should say make me an easy target, because at least my videos as of recently, like especially for as of recording this video, I've just gotten an email saying that my reaction videos for the last two episodes of Legends were both blocked, despite the fact they only had 5 to 7 minutes of footage from the episode entirely. It's only happened to a couple of my Black Lightning videos. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that it's a new show, that the ratings are solid. My feeling is because of the fact that maybe because it may or may not have to do with the fact that they have maybe more solid ratings and don't have to worry about like ad revenues or something, as opposed to the other Arrowverse shows, which I feel more and more people, just based on comments I've been looking at the internet, it just feels like all their shows are kind of in like a slump right now, and I think they're losing viewers, and that's why they're so skittish and just going after any YouTube channel doing reaction videos, or like I said, the smaller channels, just because of the poor reception they've been getting, at least compared to, say, like last year. And so now it's just like they don't want viewers who's kind of been jaded, or drop the shows from their watch list, just rely on just watching like snippets from reactors, or I guess like, yeah, probably just that. But that's not the fault of the viewers. It's the fault of the writers. If the quality of the show is a bit of a step down. And it was sad because because based on word of mouth, is that the cast members of these shows were at least supportive of YouTube channels doing reaction videos, and the fan enthusiasm through that, as well as like I think like even Stephen Amell had a couple of his like Facebook chats, like he even like referenced them or included them in his previous Facebook chats. This is based on secondhand information, and it's really sad because I mean I didn't know anything about the I didn't know anything about the 10-minute video limit. I've been trying to reach out to people, but I've helped how to build my channel, but of course especially back ends of their channels through social media. But then of course people tell you the adult thing to do is to reach out and ask for help, but most people turn out to be hypocrites. And so now I'm at the point where I have a few followers, and I'm no longer eligible for monetization at this point. But it is what it is. So I'm just gonna give you my quick thoughts on it. So besides that episode making my blood boil, the freaking new team is making my blood boil, just because of the fact that how much of this episode was just an idiot-driven plot. So, for one, I guess the cause of the whole, the latest conflict between the new recruits and the original Team Arrow is the fact that the month that after Diaz killed Caden James, they never had a chance to get back the $70 million that the latter extorted from the city. And so now like all different like services like schools, hospitals, the fire department, police department. They're on the verge of just basically the whole thing is on the whole city is basically on the verge of like a financial shutdown. And through a video that Felicity found, it was Black Siren was implicated in stealing, being in Corto Maltese, taking withdrawing all the $70 million that Caden James stole from his account. But the thing is that it was implied that there was another doctored video created by Diaz, since this episode takes place maybe like, I don't know, maybe like a day or two after last week's episode. So it's like she had no way to even like travel in and out of the country that quickly by her own means, and she was still being held at that cabin with Quentin. But it never really like dawns on anybody that she doesn't have the money. And to make matters even worse is that Black Siren has even tried to deny that not only that she that I don't have this money, I don't know what you're talking about. She not only claims to have, she just decides to go along with their whole idea to claim to have the money as a means of trying to manipulate the original Team Arrow into getting her out of the country, and Quentin and Thea into getting her out of the country. So, but then it's like it leads to this whole confrontation in which Curtis is using his T-Spears to create like I guess like holograms or like traces of Laurel's sonic scream to figure out he's being dragged off. And then when Team Arrow shows up and they find a footprint, they find Dinah's footprint and assumes that they are attacked, and they attack the new recruits' home base and accuse them of kidnapping and killing Black Siren. And it just leads to this conversation where it's just when all of a sudden Renee just starts to like jump on, even though Renee and Courage are trying to be the voices of reason, making sure, because it's clear that Diana's need for revenge prioritized getting back to the Star City's funds. He decides to throw shade at Team Arrow and just starts being all smug about it, saying it's like, oh, Oliver, oh, you're looking for a fight, Oliver? Because it's like, Vincent, where are you to help Vincent? He wouldn't be dead because of you. And it's like, no, we were trying. And when Diggle calls him out, saying it's like, we were trying to secure the bomb, like he wouldn't be. We were trying to secure the bomb, like it's like he wouldn't be dead if he hadn't like rushed into that scenario. And he's right. Like if Dinah and company, if the recruits didn't rush in there, they could have secured the bomb far earlier. Vincent would have only had to worry about getting out of the building rather than looking for Dinah and worrying about himself, and neither would have been caught in that explosion in which he got impaled on that rebar and then vulnerable to Black Siren killing him on Caden James's orders. And clearly and it just feels like not even like Team Arrow tries to like entertain the idea that they got sent another doctored videos. Like they know like videos of Oliver being the Green Arrow was doctored. They know the video of Oliver killing Caden James's son Owen was doctored, and it was an assassin sent by, well, they don't know it was Diaz, but it was sent by they were hired by somebody to make it look like it was Oliver. So it's like, why would it not entertain the note? It's like, okay, if she's been here the whole time, there's no way she could have been a Calder Maltese to set out the money. But I feel it's not even like brought up, so it makes the conflict even more nonsensical. And it's like the recruits like go out of their way to be even like more at their lowest and most sympathetic at all times. Like Renee is probably the most unsympathetic he's ever been since when he was first introduced into the show. I actually thought he was getting some character development, just having him paired when episodes where they had him paired off with Diggle. And or paired off with Quentin or something. Like having the little or paired off with like Renee. Just having it's like having moments like this where he was allowed to like kind of mellow out and just kind of be self-aware when he came across as a jerk. Now I just feel like it's been all been undone just for the writer can like crib Captain America Civil War. Except is except except things are far except in that movie things were not as black and were far less black and white. Here they pretty much are. And it's like they become unsympathetic because of the fact that Renee's become so smug. And he actually shoves Oliver as he's leaving the new recruit's hideout. That he puts like Oliver puts a mini arrow to his throat. I just wanted him to just punch him in the face and just go, but of course he didn't want to avoid a confrontation. Then you find out that Renee had put a bug on Oliver just so they can figure out just so the original Team Arrow would lead them to Black Siren, which eventually they find out because Thea was apparently the only one who could tell that Quentin was hiding something or lying to them about Black Siren's location, and found their cabin and then called Team Arrow, and the new recruits were following them. And even though they found the bug, they were able to evade them for at least a time being. But then then Curtis suggested and did at both Dinah and Renee's behest, they hacked into the microchip that allowed Diggle to control his tremors it's like they used that to not only cause him put him in like physical pain, but it also allowed the recruits to track them down, and it lead to a confrontation where Oliver was able to eventually destroy Curtis's T-Spears and beat the ever-loving shit out of Curtis and Renee. But not before the latter was actually, started firing his guns at the car where Quentin and Thea were trying to get into the escape car under the false promise that Dinah would help Black Siren lead in getting their money back. But it's like he ends up blowing up like a propane tank that could have easily injured Laurel, and then he ended up and Felicity ended up getting caught in the crossfire of one of his guns, and it was just like, what are you doing? It's like, are you crazy? And she's like, yeah, probably. Felicity is rightfully pissed off that they would stoop so low into like using, physically disabling John, and that he was even struggling with his arm, like with his tremors, even trying to defend Black Siren and everybody else trying to escape. And it even got to the point where basically Dinah was able to subdue Quentin and was almost about to subdue and basically almost like kill basically about to kill Black Siren in a similar manner, to the point where she was actually saying that I'm sorry, and maybe she actually did seem to show a remorseful side of herself, especially considering Quentin quickly reduced that because that Earth 2, that his doppelganger died on Earth 2, that Laurel's been without a father figure, and why she's been so quick and willing to follow the likes. She was looking for father figures in Zoom and Prometheus, and then Kate and James. And then she kind of like broke down her barriers earlier and saying, yeah, I would love to have some of the chicken soup you brought me, and then she did used to have that on her Earth, or she said something like that. And Quentin, despite what he was doing, he said he was willing to help her get out of the country and let her live her own life and make her own decisions, and not try to change her, which I thought was probably the one redeeming thing about this episode. The writers acknowledging what Quentin doing was kind of going too far, and that Quentin did really have to give her some space and just hope for the best. At this is the only thing you could have hoped for at that point. But then the other few redeeming things about this episode was Curtis following Dinah into the woods and just saying how she was starting to act like Oliver and they were starting to take on the traits that made them want to leave the Team Arrow in the first place, and that killing Black Simon, they weren't going to get the money back, and that it wasn't, and she wasn't going to get justice for Vincent. Like, all they're doing is fighting among themselves, and like everybody's getting injured. You know, with Felicity, Renee, even to the point where he's like walking out into the follows him out into the woods and is talking smack, but eventually collapses because of an injury from, it was like from 5 months ago when he got, I guess from like several months ago when he got shot, and so the wound got reopened up, and so he has like a collapsed lung. He had to be taken to the hospital, and so Curtis said, "This has to stop. We got to take Curtis to the hospital." And even though, even like people have started to realize like how much like their fighting is, you know, bringing out the worst in them, and even though Diggle and Felicity came to show up and so moral support and like check on Renee because they were concerned for his well-being, they weren't willing to hold any grudges anymore. Dinah and Curtis and Dinah apparently were still not willing to forgive them and saying, you know, this was the last straw. He's in the hospital because of you. We don't want to have anything to do with you guys ever. No collaborating, no truce, nothing. I'm just like, fine, because, like I said, they've become absolutely unsympathetic. I hate the writers have made them completely unsympathetic. And you know what? I don't care if any one of the three just all get killed by the season finale. Because, like, you know, bring back Roy, or just do like a new Team Arrow, new version, like a Team Arrow 3.0, like whatever, you know, whatever the hell. And then Black Simon ends up escaping, and by the end of the whole thing, I guess Diaz supposedly gets what he wants because he presumably is the one who has the $70 million, and because they don't end up getting it back because Black Siren didn't know where it was, and nobody knows that Diaz is the one who's been playing everybody like a fiddle. And so Oliver has to break the news to like city council and members of service agencies, school boards, teachers. That's like, I failed to get this money back. I let you all down. And it turns out that, as mentioned last week, the new police captain was on Diaz's payroll, tries to cover up by saying that, oh, Caden James died when he was in prison or during like a prison transfer, even though he clearly had been stabbed while he was in the interrogation room. So I don't know how anybody could have easily bought that story, because apparently somebody would have had to have found the body and carried him out to the hospital, unless there are more people on the Star City PD that are on Diaz's payrolls or working at the hospital that are on Diaz's payroll, because apparently the DA he was reluctantly trying to prosecute Oliver. Turns out that he didn't have a solid case in spite of Renee's testimony, and now he's working going to be working with a new police captain to try to gain more evidence to throw Oliver in jail, and with her saying, I can see why Diaz selected you. So it could be like kind of this whole like widespread conspiracy, almost like 24 season 7, where they had like the African warlords, paying off like several government officials to carry out their little on their payroll, and to like help carry out their little conspiracy or look the other way. This could be like another case, because this seems to be. Hell, like even all the people that Oliver was meeting in that boardroom at the mayor's office, they could be like conspiring with Diaz on his payroll too, because that would kind of make. I wouldn't be surprised. That would kind of make sense. Or at least people, like I said, involved with law enforcement, fire departments, or like people working at the hospitals in order to cover up on the causes of Caden James' death, and also to cover his own Diaz's tracks. I would just say, that would be interesting. I just want to focus more on Diaz and Team Arrow right now. I don't give a shit about this drama between the two teams right now. I'm sick of it. Everyone is sick of it. There's not a single person I've seen or maybe like literally one or two people. I say like 99% of the fan base is sick of this storyline. We don't care. The new recruits are at their most unsympathetic. This needs to be rectified now. It's really hurting the season. The only thing I have to look forward to for next week is that the previews showing how apparently how Diaz has kidnapped Roy, and that's what and it becomes personal for Thea as to why she suits up to become Speedy again and goes to his rescue. But the episode is also called Doppelganger, and presumably I guess it ended with Black Siren escaping, her bullet wounds like still reopened. She's like bleeding out. She finds some maintenance worker and is like begging for her help, and she's asking and she's saying going on about some rant about being like kidnapped and held hostage. So she says, and she tells her name's Laurel Lance, so maybe she's gonna try to pass herself off as the original Laurel Lance, and maybe said that rumors of her death have been exaggerated. She's actually been held captive. I don't know where this is going with this, where that particular storyline is going, other than Doppelganger is still like heavily implied that they're going to be like flashbacks to Black Siren's life on Earth 2 prior to her events of being brought over from Earth 1. So you had to see more the extent of the Earth 2 Quentin Oliver dying, and just like what other traumas like just drove her to becoming the person that she is. Because I feel like there has to be more to the story than just the death of those two people. Anyway, this episode just kind of like pissed me off. I don't know if I would say it was a good thing or in the wrong ways, but that's my thoughts on it. So I think I'm just going to be sticking to doing reviews for a while until, things kind of die down. It's just the way it is. But anyway, guys, what do you think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.